Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Cathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present.
The Season 2 partner of The Change is Olivio Wellness Skincare, hydrating natural skincare for the over 40s.
Keep listening to the end of this episode for a discount code for your next order of Olivio Wellness products.
Hey Laura, how you going?
Hi Cathy. Look, I'm good. I'm feeling a little bit croaky, dusty this morning. I went out last night and chatted away for a few hours and now I feel quite tired.
Doesn't take very much for us to get tired these days. I don't know about you, but
no, absolutely. And we were in this pub and it was filled with very young people. And so, of course, I felt completely ancient. And but it was a very cool pub, and it was like being at some kind of high school party. Like it was not the vibe I was after last night. But anyway, we still had a nice time and a nice dinner and stuff, but it was very funny seeing the young people.
So what you really wanted was like a nice quiet wine bar sort of.
Yes. It was not, I think when you get older, you can't deal with the noise. And we were right by the kind of, I don't know, intersection of the toilets and the kind of corridor. So we could just see all these kids, and they were kids, so 18, 19, beautifully dressed, but wearing their sneakers and their sandals. Very cool, nice. They're going to have, healthy backs when they're older, not crippled by awful heels that we used to wear going to the pub. And they were just, in sort of gangs going into the toilet, giggling, and then very drunk. A fight broke out. It was not my usual experience of a kind of, middle-aged, dinner out.
Yeah. It's funny because we still want to go out and we still want to do those things. And
absolutely.
We all know that I don't drink, but it doesn't mean that I don't want to go out and hang out with friends and go to nice places. But all the places, like they're either noisy bars like that or I find a lot of restaurants are really noisy, and it's to do with, how the roofs are and all the rest of it. I don't know. But it's hard to find a good place to go have a nice meal that's lovely, quiet, where you can sort of just have a nice chat and everybody else around you is having a nice chat and it doesn't get too loud because everyone's chatting. And then, if you want to have a little bit of a dance, sort of and be able to be home in bed sort of by 10:30.
Absolutely. That's my dream sort of dream night out. But I think that that's why we used to do a few dinner parties and things at our house, which I love. I love having people over. But something's happened, I think, since COVID and when no one was allowed into your home, we've kind of not really resurrected the dinner party. I don't know why that's happened. And I guess it's a lot of work and, it's a different sort of, I used to love hosting people. Anyway, maybe we need to go back to that and have people around again and we can control the noise.
Yes, that's right.
No gaggles of 18-year-olds hanging out at our toilets. But,
I suspect though, when, in the pre-COVID, you probably hung out at home a little bit more because the kids were littler.
That is true. That is so true.
They're a bit older now, so you can either get a babysitter or, you can get out,
it's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think because I work from home, I don't know if you find this, but when it comes to the weekend, I want to leave the house. I want to go and do things outside. And that doesn't have to be at nighttime, but like just go and have a coffee out. Like I feel like I spend so much time in that I need to be and see people because I spend a lot of time staring at a screen. So that's
and with my own company, and I get it. Everybody else, like all of my other friends, they don't work from home on their own. So they're actually around people all the time. So come the weekend, they actually want to stay at home. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's tricky.
That's funny, actually. I think because also Jules, my husband, he's a doctor and works in a clinic. So he talks to people all day long. So poor man, he comes home and I'm like, I want to go out. It's Friday night. And he's like, oh God. No. Anyway, we managed to just have a very sneaky little dinner. Really, it was low key, really.
Yeah.
But yes, I completely could relate to being exhausted by people's words all day long and then having to listen to mine all night.
So, what have we been up to? Anything exciting?
No, but not well. That's not true. We have been up to some exciting things, Cathy. We had a big day out in Sydney. We've got some lovely, wonderful, we hope, you think, new images to share. And we recorded a podcast episode with our friends at Over the Back Fence in Sydney. And we had that was a lovely day. I enjoyed that.
It was. It was a lot of fun being made up and the photos are beautiful, even if I am not a fan of photos of myself. I have to accept that these photos are beautiful. I think that's a positive that I can see that there's some really nice photos there. And we're very lucky. We had a great reco for the photographer.
Yes, Nikki.
And she was really lovely.
Yes, Heist Creative. If you ever need branding photos in the Sydney area, we very much recommend Nikki. She was really great. Made us feel very comfortable, talked us through everything. And she was like, put your neck just a little bit more this way. It was very directive, which I very, you appreciate that because you don't know what you're doing. So it was very helpful. And I think the photos turned out, they're really fun. It was a fun day. And I think that the photos reflect that. But it's interesting that we started our chat talking a little bit about going out, makeup, being made up, because that's a bit of our theme for today, our change chat issue. Presentation and dressing / makeup as we age. I think I sent you this article. So it was in The Cut, which is part of the New York Times sort of group.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a piece by Valerie Monroe, and it was called The Power of Discretion After 60. And I sort of saw that headline. I was like, oh, no, I felt a bit depressed by the headline. Anyway, the article itself, of course, was a bit more nuanced. And it was sort of started around the time of the Met Gala, where we see all sorts of crazy costumes going up those steps, where there's a lot of flesh on show, a lot of young and beautiful people, wearing genuinely quite amazing things, but they're not really clothes that you'd wear down to the supermarket, of course, because
of course not. One of them was a sand dress.
Yes. And she couldn't move, could she? It was hilarious. She was like a sort of.
She had to be carried everywhere, and it was literally painted sand onto her body. So no, she's not wearing that down to the local Coles.
No, she's really not.
Bread and milk.
Yeah, and these people are like the sort of, I guess, body beautiful of the whole world, right? They're the most sort of. They're a collection of creatives, but really they're there on the red carpet because of one thing, and that's mostly because they look good, right? I mean, maybe I'm not reading into it enough, but I think that Anna Wintour, who organises it, is obviously going to get the hottest, youngest things she can to bring attention.
I think there was a bit of a selection of bodies this year.
Okay, good.
From what I saw to other years, although even the selection of bodies, they are beautiful,
Yes, of course.
They're absolutely beautiful and they're absolutely stunning. And there's not a huge cross-section of age.
No.
And the age, like the older women that were there were, 50 kind of, but they were still like Naomi Campbell, who is like in anyone's world beautiful and amazing.
Like a goddess, like a sort of beautifully long-legged beauty, but I think it just goes to show, really, even if there were people of much more variety in size and age, we just don't see them. Everyone across, if you looked at any kind of what do you call them, carousels of fashion from the Met Gala, it was mostly the same kind of people. Zendaya, J-Lo was there, obviously representing the 50s, but in an immaculate way. All the usual, gorgeous Dua Lipa, etc. And so, even if there were that diversity, they just weren't really being shown as much.
And I think that the whole purpose of the dresses, I mean, it might not have been the original purpose of the Met Gala starting, but I think all of the designers, like, they're really trying to one up each other or one up last year.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that our dress or our design makes it onto the list, you know?
That's right, onto that carousel in Vogue or
Mm,
Harper's
mm.
Bazaar. Yeah, totally. And I think anyway, it's always an interesting spectacle for us normies, just looking at it from home. And I think that the article was kind of saying, well, it was saying, it referenced Sarah Jessica Parker and Anna Wintour in quite demure
Mhm.
outfits, and the writer says, "And didn't they look lovely?" And I don't know, it was quite a sort of, she was being ironic, I'm assuming, in some way, sort of just saying that, you've got red carpets where the young people can show their butt cracks, and there was that Irish singer that did that. I think it was at the Brit Awards earlier this year, where she literally got a butt out, and it was a very cute kind of viral moment for her, and good on her, I suppose, if that's how you want to be represented. But then she referenced the butt crack, and then went on to talk about, yes, the power of discretion, and maybe how dressing more demurely after a certain age brings with it kind of a certain respect and kind of beauty in and of itself, and that she also concluded from some research that if you wear too much makeup or you overdress, it kind of creates a sense of distrust in other people. We'll put the link to the article so you can kind of read what she has to say, but she was kind of saying that when you're young and you amplify your beauty with makeup and sort of pretty things, it's sort of, you've already got the basis of being a beautiful young person, and you're kind of just amplifying it through makeup and clothes. When you get older, you're sort of covering up your face with if you use excessive makeup, or you're wearing lots of kind of really out there clothing, it's rather than amplifying your beauty, it's sort of becomes, people look at you in a different way. And I just didn't really like the idea of being looked at in a different way, and people kind of going, oh, you're just old and wearing makeup and it makes people distrust you. I don't know. I felt, research aside, I don't know. What did you think, Cathy?
Um, it was a really interesting article, and I guess I can't help but think of I don't know if it was an English term, if you've heard of it, mutton dressed as lamb,
Yes, yes.
and I kind of couldn't help but think there's a judgment around what women do.
Mm,
And it
yeah.
doesn't matter what age we're at. It doesn't matter how beautiful we are. It doesn't matter what stage of life we're in.
Mm.
We're always being judged
Oh
by
God,
someone. And
yes.
mostly we're being judged, if we're honest, it's often from other women. Like,
Yeah.
um, and whether that comes from, I mean, some people would say that that's internalized misogyny.
Mm.
And it quite possibly may be,
Mm.
I don't like the idea of people policing what I can and can't wear after a certain
Mm.
age, just because I'm 53, I
Mm.
shouldn't wear too much makeup, or I shouldn't dress up in sequiny clothes, or anything like that. I'm conflicted because
Mm.
I there's a part of me that does a little bit agree with discretion is a little bit better, like
Mm.
being I don't think we need to have everything out on show all the time,
Mm.
there's places where it's not necessarily appropriate, but kind of funny, where they can be, whether it's the VMAs or, you think of other women over the years, like Miley Cyrus on her Wrecking Ball, where she was naked, I believe, or in a skin tight naked bodysuit or whatever. Um, so there's times and places where you kind of go, oh yeah, like, they're doing it for attention. Like, let's be honest, and we all still talk about the Miley Cyrus Wrecking Ball moment and those sorts of things. I think, but in my head, so I'm really conflicted because I do believe that there is a little bit of, we can all be a little bit more discreet, I guess, in what we do. I don't think that everything needs to be out on show all the time, and I'm probably gonna get hate for that.
Look, I think what you make some valid points there about women. We're always being judged anyway. So I think there has to be well, you could say discretion, but maybe it's not like just for women as we age. It's, you know, you sort of saying it across the board. Like discretion can be beautiful for, you know, across any age. It's not just because we're older.
No.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that you can't wear certain things, but sometimes it's a beautiful tool in dressing or makeup, like a more natural look. Like Pamela Anderson, for example, with her more natural face. You know, she did wear a little bit of makeup, I think, at the Met Gala, but very, very natural, and she still looked beautiful. And
I guess so. I do want to say that if you want to wear all the makeup and you want to wear the latex outfit, or you want to, whatever you want to do, and that makes you feel better about yourself, and that makes you feel more powerful in your own body, or then I'm all power to you. Like, because I don't think that we should be policing other people's bodies, what they wear, and how they wear it, you know,
yeah,
at any age.
I agree. And I think that's what got me about the article. And I suspect it was probably a clickbait kind of a thing, but the fact that it was called The Power of Discretion After 60. And obviously I'm not 60 yet, nor are you, but it was like, what do you mean we have to stop doing a certain thing? It's like those stories that you used to see. I'd see a lot less, like the things you shouldn't wear after 40, or what you know, those lists that used to get compiled about what you can't do after a certain age. And I think, oh, really, you know,
Can we stop?
yeah,
Can
can
we
we
just
stop?
yeah,
With the cutoff, it's the cutoff scenario, isn't it? I just don't like being told that I can't do something after or before a certain age. So yeah, and I sent you that other little clip of
yes.
Candice Leslie Seamer. So she's an Instagrammer. She's a grandmother in her 70s. So if you do want to follow her, her handle is Life in My 70s, and she has fashion, and she's very cool, and she's into fitness and yoga, and she lives in the US. Anyway, she puts outfits together. She does fit checks on Instagram, and she had a certain one where she had her arms out, and it was like a summery, cute. She's a very you know, slight woman. She's not. She's a small
She's
build.
tiny.
Yeah. Not that that matters either, but she got sent so much abuse about having her, you know, 75-year-old arms on show, that she kind of, it went viral. She was a guest on various morning TV shows because it was such a topic. And she's still, I think it's more than a year later, she did a clip about it more recently where she was like,
Yeah, just last week.
yeah, she can't believe she's still getting women say to her, "What, at your age, you shouldn't have your arms out." And I thought, oh my gosh, you know, there was lots of things I thought about that, because she's a slight woman, she's a white woman, she's a wealthy
She's
woman,
gorgeous.
and she's gorgeous, right? And she's probably and she said she'd never heard of women being trolled or about their arms, but I have, and we talked about this, you and I, like. I know I'm a slight woman too, but I've always had a thing about my arms. When I was
Me too.
younger, I spent my whole 20s not wearing my arms out, which is ridiculous. You know, I look back now and I think, what, you know, and I more mean my very, very early 20s actually, because I got married in a sleeveless dress. So I can't say that I didn't get my arms out. But I think, yeah, I feel sad for my old self. That was such a thing to, if you didn't have those skinny model-esque arms, you shouldn't get them out. And it was a kind of an unwritten thing, wasn't it? Like, you felt that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I struggle with my arms. It's probably the one part of my body that I really do struggle with, because they are bigger than the size that I am, if that makes sense. So, you know, tops I could wear a 10 or a 12, but I actually have to size up quite significantly, because my arms, my upper arm is often too large for the top, because they don't put proper sleeves outfits, because they're made for toothpicks. And
yes.
so I struggle with my arms. I'm, you know, not going to be lying there. But you will be proud of me. Yesterday we're shopping at Costco and IKEA, so that was a fun day out. Don't advise it. But yes, spent the day with my husband in those two very large places, and it was really hot. Like, I was really hot, and I had an outfit, but it was a sleeveless top underneath, and it was too hot to wear the jacket, so I just had to
get them out.
Get my arms out. And, not a single person came up to me and said, "Hey, lady, put your arms away because they're too fat." It was just, but you know what I mean?
But,
that's a conversation that often plays in my head.
Yes.
Like, someone might come up to me and say, "Get your arms away. They're too fat, or they're too white, or they're too whatever."
Yeah.
And literally not a single person gave me a second look,
No, we're our own worst critics, right?
Absolutely,
so we're always thinking the worst in our minds. But good on you for doing that, Cathy, because I think if it's something you've always hated, it's hard, right? Like, you don't, and I think
in my 20s, and I mean, I used to wear, 90s out to, like, slip, satin 90s.
Very of the time.
Very, very much of the time in the 90s. And I used to wear them all the time out I'd wear them to the football, and then I'd go to the nightclub. And so I when I was younger, it was fine. Like, I didn't care. I was just too busy just getting on and having a great time, and just really not caring. I think I've gotten more conscious about my body as I've gotten older, which is
really, it is, isn't it? And I think that's really interesting that you say it, because I'm the opposite, in the sense that I've roughly always been roughly the same sort of a size. And then I came to Australia, and I remember it was a trend in the UK in the early 2000s, and I'm sure it was here too, to wear jeans under dresses. Like, it's come back around, I believe. Yeah. And so I used to live in that. Even in Australia, I didn't buy a pair of shorts until maybe like 5 years ago. This is how ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't get my legs out, refused. I had all these long baggy pants, like wide leg summery pants that I'd wear, or long dresses, which is the same because I'm quite short and my legs are completely fine. And in winter I'd get them out in a pair of
would
tights.
actually argue your legs are completely gorgeous and long, and look stunning in a short skirt.
Yeah, but I wasted all those years, Cathy. I wasted them when my legs were fine, and I wouldn't get them out. I refused, and I don't know what that's about. I think it was mostly spray tans helped once. And I remember going out in Sydney when I was about 25, and a girl said to me, "Why are you wearing jeans under your dress?" And she was like, "Get your legs out." She was a proper Aussie direct. She gave me some talking to, and I was like, okay. I got them out, and then
did for a day, and then put them away.
Then I put them away again. But it was a sort of slow realization, very slow realization that there's something wrong with them. So I think we're all caught up in our own heads, and it's ridiculous.
And I reckon we should probably give less fucks about what other people think.
Absolutely.
And,
It's sad that we spend all that time worrying about it. And I feel like now I'm just like, I'm going the opposite way. So I'm wearing the short dresses to my 45th birthday party, not giving a fuck. And I like that. And that's great. But so when I see about these lists about being more discreet over 60, I start thinking, oh no, but I've only just found myself. I can't possibly go back in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, recos. We do like to give you some change recos of things that we are watching, listening to, reading, because, well, I like to hear what other people are doing.
Yeah, it's always good to get a first-hand recommendation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cathy, tell me, what's your first reco?
My first reco is I'm rewatching The Morning Show, or that's it, isn't it? Called The Morning Show, or I think in the US it's called The Morning Wars, or
yes, it's got a different name, hasn't it? Yeah, it's really good either way.
And you'll find it on Apple, and I just love it. It is, for anyone who hasn't seen it, Jennifer Aniston and
Reese Witherspoon.
I was like, I wanted to say Renee with the Winterbottom, but it was, and I don't know where that was coming from.
Nope.
I think I was getting confused. But anyway, Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon are the main characters,
the hosts, or
but there are a lot of women who have main character energy, I guess, if you like.
Yeah. Some great casting.
It is an incredible cast, and I just love it. And I'm desperately waiting for season 4 because I think there is a season 4, but I can't be certain.
Yeah.
And
I think they will be because it's such a popular
show.
and
it ended on a real cliffhanger. So, but I'm rewatching from the beginning, and I particularly love that it is, I mean, Jennifer Aniston, she's like, what, 55, 56? Got to be she's a bit older than me. And, she was, the whole show was cast around her, which I think is absolutely incredible. And
she's a badass in it, isn't she? She's really powerful woman.
And she wields a lot of power. And I mean, sometimes she doesn't always use her power for good.
No.
Which is also,
it's a nuanced.
Yeah, it's a very nuanced show.
Yeah.
And it's quite topical. They cover some, very current news stories.
And the fact it kind of goes through COVID. So you kind of like live in COVID, the pandemic, as though it's recent history, which I found really fascinating because you go, oh yeah, remember when that happened?
Remember when we had to wear masks everywhere we went?
Yes, and you had to sign in and all that stuff.
All of the things.
So recent and yet so awful.
And there was just some things. And there was like so recent, they even covered the January 6th.
That's right.
Riots and in the US. So, which is incredibly topical for
the presidential election coming up.
So anyway, I just love it. So
yes, 5 stars for the morning show. I concur. I have a TV
and
show.
You'll find it on Apple.
Apple, correct. Yes, Apple, download it. It's worth it. I think I signed up for Apple just for that. So do it. Yeah, my TV show is called Bodkin. Love the name. It was recommended to me. I'd never heard of it before, but it's one of those word of mouth recos from a friend, and she watched it in one weekend, and I can see why. It's a Irish, American, British thriller. It's about podcasters, which is relevant, right? Who are doing a true crime podcast in a little town called Bodkin in Southern Ireland. And the characters in the town are really, it's called a comedy. It's on Netflix, but it's quite dramatic and it's a little bit gruesome in parts. So if you go to it expecting straight up comedy, you might be surprised. It's a little bit more tense, a bit more thrillery than I had anticipated.
Well, I've got to say, I did start trying to watch that the other night, but it was quite late when I turned it on.
Yes.
And I was like, there's not a lot of comedy in this first.
It doesn't start out
10 minutes.
No.
So I was like, this is probably not a late night show.
No,
I will come back to that.
I think that might be smart. It's and the characters again are really funny. The main actresses, none of the cast. I'd vaguely seen some of them in other things, but I wasn't familiar with their work. But they're really great performances from the full cast. So I recommend Bodkin on Netflix. And you've got a book.
I have a book. It is called Mrs. Winterbottom Takes a Gap Year by Joanna Nell. And it's a sweet story. And the theme of it is that Mrs. Winterbottom, or she was Dr. Winterbottom. She was a local GP.
Yeah.
This is, no spoilers. This is just the theme. And her husband, Mr. Winterbottom, was also a GP. And after 40 years of practice in the local town, they decided to retire. And she was at a bit of a loss. And Mr. Winterbottom, as he then became, was very happy pottering around the house and doing a little bit of gardening and a little bit of pottering.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Winterbottom wanted more. And it really, it was funny because I can remember I was having a conversation with my husband who would like to retire sooner rather than later, which we all would. So we are very much, having those retirement conversations. It's not happening anytime soon. Just
just in the not too
just
distant
sort of
future.
not too distant future. It's closer than it's not, if that makes
it does.
And I was saying that I'm not ready to retire because I feel like I'm just finding myself and who I am and really leaning into that next stage of my life. And I saw this book on the shelf and I was like, oh, Mrs. Winterbottom takes a gap year. What is that all about?
What is that? Love that.
And I read the back and it was about, this couple, they've been married and, working together for 40 years and
highly relatable.
Mm-hmm. Highly relatable. And, and that's what it says on the back that, Mr. Winterbottom wants to do lots of pottering and gardening and those sorts of things in their backyard. And she's like, well, I think there's more to life than this.
Yeah. I feel like that's a lot of women in a similar situation, don't you? Like,
yeah, I really do. And when I say to my husband, what do you want to do? Retire? He says, oh, I'll just potter. And I'm like,
it will be Cathy Takes a Gap Year will be the book coming your way in 2036.
Yes, probably.
Yeah, I love it.
And what's your reco?
My final reco is an episode of a podcast called How to Fail, which is hosted by Elizabeth Day. She's the posh British, we love. Yeah, which is great series. Always got interesting guests. And it's funny, I actually normally avoid the ones where she interviews the men, which is probably, I don't know, not keeping an open mind, but I always prefer listening to women talk to other women. I don't know what that's about. But anyway, this week or recently she interviewed Salman Rushdie, the writer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And gosh, he's had an interesting life.
Oh yeah.
And the episode was it was really eye-opening. And obviously he recently survived a murder attempt on his life. He was stabbed while on stage multiple times, and he was in his 70s when that happened, and he's recovered, and he's written a book called Knife about that experience, and which is incredible that he pulled through. And that person obviously is now in prison. He doesn't mention him by name at any stage in the book or in the interview. But then he was just talking about how he lived, because he had a fatwa out against him, which meant that he was kind of like a target out against him by
absolutely.
Was it the Iranian people?
I'm not sure, but
I'm not sure.
He definitely did.
Yes, for 20 years, and he lived with high security in the UK. And just him talking about, he wished he'd had a different life, and I feel that was really sad. But overall, he came across very happy and just so many different stories to tell about the people he's met. And he was in Bridget Jones, if you've seen that, his little cameo. So he's a real character, and I loved it. I loved that episode. It was unexpected love. So if you like the series, but you like me, don't listen to the blokes. I recommend listening to that one, or just listen to that one and then listen to the whole series, because it's such a great podcast.
It really is. I saw Elizabeth when she came to Australia, and it was a fabulous evening. And she made an interesting observation about men, and how men don't actually see failures as failures, that she's had on the podcast, that it's the women who see their failures as failures.
Yeah.
And men just see them as, oh yeah, well, that's just a step on the way.
Experience. An experience of life.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that's kind of us. That wraps us up.
That wraps us up.
Our Change Chat. We have had some really amazing guests so far this season. Dr. Dimity Williams, our nature doctor, and that is something that I am definitely trying to incorporate into my life.
Yes.
And then we had the fabulous Anne Stevens.
We did. We've had Anna Grossman
talking to us about sex.
And escorts.
All the things.
We had our eyes.
Incredible Kylie Stone talking to us about resilience and the power of storytelling for change, and her Aboriginal past and history as her family songlines. And our most recent episode was with the incredible Ali Anderson, who is a personal friend of mine, and she shared very generously and very authentically and vulnerably about her journey with alcoholism and where it's brought her. So we really would love you to go back, listen to our back catalogue, leave us a like, a rating, give us a voice note.
Yes. Yeah. We love it. And we hope you enjoy the next few episodes. We've got some great guests coming up for you too. So keep listening to The Change. And yes, please do review us, rate us, tell your friends. It does help people find us, as we are an independent podcast and we do not have huge marketing budgets like some of those big ones, like Elizabeth Day. Can only wish.
But we did, an exciting thing for us, we did get a lovely sponsorship this season from Alivio Wellness, which we really love Meg for. So
yeah.
Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast.
We love the Australian-made, all-natural skincare brand Alivio Wellness, and we know you will too.
Use code THECHANGE at the checkout to receive 20% off your next order. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.